Have you ever stood in the seafood aisle, reached for a piece of fish, and felt genuinely good about yourself? Like you were doing something right, something smart, something your body would thank you for later. Maybe it's been your Tuesday routine for years. Maybe a doctor told you once, eat more fish, and you took that seriously. You came home, you cooked it up, and you felt like a person who had their health figured out. Here's what nobody told you. For people over 60, the wrong fish isn't just unhelpful, it can accelerate the exact conditions you're trying to avoid. Cognitive decline, chronic inflammation, cardiovascular damage, weakened muscle mass. A 2021 analysis published in the journal Environmental Research found that regular consumption of high-mercury fish was associated with a 68% greater risk of cardiovascular events in adults over 55 compared to younger adults eating the same amount. The same fish, eaten the same way, but the aging body processes it completely differently. That gap between what we assume is healthy and what the research actually shows is exactly what we're going to close today. I'm going to walk you through 4 fish that are quietly working against your health after 60, and then I'm going to give you 4 fish that do the opposite, that actively protect your brain, your heart, your muscles, and your independence. Not as a scare tactic, not as a list of things to fear, but as the conversation you should have been having with your doctor, but probably never did, because there isn't enough time in a 15-minute appointment into any of this. Before we go further, I want to hear from you. Leave a comment right now. How often do you eat fish each week? Once? 3 times? Every single day? Your answer will tell you a lot about how urgently you need what's coming next. Let's start with the fish you need to stop trusting. The first one might surprise you, because it has one of the cleanest reputations in the grocery store. Tilapia. Affordable, mild, widely recommended, easy to cook. Tilapia is one of the most consumed fish in the United States, and in seniors' households especially, it's practically a staple. The problem isn't what tilapia contains, the problem is what it doesn't contain, and what it contains instead. Wild fish build their omega-3 profiles by eating algae and smaller marine organisms. Farm tilapia, which accounts for nearly all tilapia sold commercially, is fed corn and soy-based diets. The result is a fish that has almost no omega-3 fatty acids, but is loaded with omega-6 fatty acids. And here's the part most doctors don't mention. The ratio matters more than the absolute amount. When omega-6 dramatically outweighs omega-3, your body shifts into a pro-inflammatory state. A study in the Journal of the American Dietetic Association found that farm tilapia has an omega-6 to omega-3 ratio worse than processed pork bacon. Worse than bacon. That's not a typo. For a body under 40, low-grade dietary inflammation is annoying. For a body over 60, it's dangerous. Chronic inflammation after 60 is directly linked to accelerated joint degeneration, increased dementia risk, weakened immune response, and higher rates of cardiovascular events. When you eat tilapia 3 times a week, thinking you're fighting inflammation, you may actually be quietly feeding it. The body you're trying to protect is working against you. If you love mild, affordable whitefish, there are better options, and we'll get there. But tilapia, especially the farmed variety with no country of origin certification, is not doing what you think it's doing. The second fish carries a different kind of hidden danger, and this one requires you to understand something specific about how the aging body handles heavy metals. Swordfish. Majestic, meaty, high in protein, and unfortunately one of the most mercury-contaminated fish you can put in your body. The FDA and EPA have been warning about swordfish for years. It consistently tests among the highest of any commercially available fish for methyl mercury concentration. But why does this matter more after 60 than it did when you were 40? Mercury, building up, silently, for years. Methylmercury is a bioaccumulative toxin. Unlike many substances the body processes and eliminates, mercury accumulates in fatty tissue, including brain tissue, with every exposure. The kidneys and liver of a younger person can neutralize and expel mercury with greater efficiency. After 60, those detoxification pathways slow considerably. Decades of modest exposure suddenly accelerates, and the neurological consequences are not subtle. A longitudinal study from Harvard's School of Public Health tracked mercury exposure in adults over 55 and found a direct correlation between high mercury fish consumption and measurable cognitive decline, specifically in memory recall and processing speed. Moment of reaching for a word that should be right there. Mercury may be part of why. The troubling thing about swordfish is that people eat it precisely because it feels substantial and high quality. A special occasion fish. A restaurant choice that feels like a reward. Limit it to once a month at most, and never eat it if you're managing kidney conditions, thyroid dysfunction, or early cognitive changes. Now let's talk about a category of fish that almost nobody connects to a health risk. Canned tuna, specifically albacore, white tuna, which sits on grocery shelves everywhere and fills lunches across the country because it's convenient, it's cheap, and it's been recommended as a healthy protein for decades. And it is a reasonable protein source. But after 60, the mercury content of albacore becomes a genuine problem that accumulates faster than most people realize. Albacore tuna is a large, long-lived predatory fish. Like swordfish, it bioaccumulates mercury throughout its lifespan. The FDA classifies it in a lower choice category, meaning it's acceptable in limited amounts but not for frequent consumption. The threshold they recommend is 1 serving per week. Most people who eat albacore tuna aren't counting. It goes into salads, it goes into sandwiches, it goes into pasta, and it adds up fast. Here's what the research actually shows about consistent, low-level mercury exposure in older adults. It doesn't produce dramatic, acute symptoms. It produces subtle ones. Slight tremor, mild coordination difficulty, sleep disruption, mood instability, all of which are commonly attributed to aging rather than to a dietary source that can be removed. A 2020 study in Frontiers in Aging Neuroscience found that adults over 65 with higher blood mercury levels showed significantly faster hippocampal volume reduction, the part of the brain most critical to memory formation. If you love canned tuna and you're not ready to give it up, the answer is to switch to canned light tuna, skipjack, which is a smaller fish with dramatically lower mercury content. You can eat it more often with far less risk. Same shelf, same price, very different biology. The fourth fish on the danger list isn't one specific species. It's a category, and it's defined by where it comes from and how it was raised. Imported farm shrimp from regions with minimal regulatory oversight, primarily from certain areas of Southeast Asia, carries risks that go far beyond nutrition. Multiple investigations by the FDA and independent food safety watchdogs have found antibiotic residues, including banned substances, in imported farmed shrimp samples. The shrimp are often raised in overcrowded conditions, where disease spreads easily, requiring heavy antibiotic use to keep survival rates viable. For younger adults, Intermittent exposure to antibiotic residues in food is considered low risk. For adults over 60, who are more likely to be taking medications, managing gut microbiome decline, and dealing with weakened immune function, the picture is more complicated. Antibiotic residues disrupt the gut microbiome, the ecosystem of beneficial bacteria that controls everything from immune response to inflammation regulation to serotonin production. After 60, gut microbiome diversity already declines naturally. Adding a consistent chemical disruptor to that equation accelerates a process that's already working against you. This isn't about avoiding shrimp entirely, it's about sourcing it intelligently. Wild-caught Gulf shrimp, or shrimp from domestic aquaculture with clean certifications, doesn't carry these risks. Check the label. The words wild-caught and the country of origin matter more than most people realise, and the price difference is usually less than $1 per serving. Now, take a breath. You've just absorbed a significant amount of information. You've had the rug pulled out from under some choices you thought were solid. And I want to acknowledge that, because this isn't easy to hear when you've been making these choices in good faith for years. Why this fish works so differently than tilapia or swordfish. Wild-caught Alaskan salmon has one of the highest concentrations of EPA and DHA omega-3 fatty acids of any food. These aren't just anti-inflammatory agents, they're structurally essential to brain cell membranes. A 2019 meta-analysis in the journal Nutrients found that adults with higher blood levels of DHA had significantly better outcomes across cognitive aging markers, slower memory decline, reduced risk of Alzheimer's onset, and better neural communication. But here's the truth. Knowing is the first step. The moment you understand the mechanism, the mercury pathway, the omega-6 ratio, the antibiotic residue, you're no longer a passive consumer. You're an informed one. And an informed senior is the most powerful kind of patient there is. Because now we get to talk about the other side. The fish that aren't just safe, they're actively working in your favour. The ones that build what's breaking down, protect what's at risk, and feed the version of you that stays sharp, stays strong, and stays independent longer than statistics would predict. Let's start with the one that earns its reputation every single time. Wild-caught Alaskan salmon. Pacific salmon, sockeye, coho, king, is consistently listed among the most nutrient-dense foods available to humans, and for adults over 60, it's close to irreplaceable. Here's one efficiency. After 60, when myelin sheaths protecting nerve fibers begin to thin and neurological communication slows, dietary DHA is one of the few nutritional interventions with measurable protective effect. But the benefits don't stop in the brain. While salmon is extraordinarily rich in vitamin D, a nutrient that roughly 40% of Americans over 65 are deficient in, and one that regulates bone density, immune response, muscle function, and mood stability simultaneously. It's also dense in selenium, a trace mineral that protects against oxidative damage to thyroid tissue and is directly linked to thyroid health, a system that becomes increasingly fragile after 60, particularly in women. Astaxanthin, the compound that gives salmon its distinctive colour, is one of the most potent antioxidants studied in nutritional science, with emerging research linking it to reduced cardiovascular inflammation and improved skin elasticity at the cellular level. How do you eat it to maximise benefit? Baked or lightly pan-seared, never deep-fried, which degrades the omega-3 structure. Pair it with leafy greens or sweet potato to enhance the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins. Twice a week is the sweet spot that research consistently supports. The second healing fish is one that most people associate with Mediterranean restaurants and have never thought to cook at home: sardines. And I understand the instinctive hesitation, but hear this out, because what sardines do for the aging body is almost disproportionate to how little they cost. Sardines are a small, short-lived fish, which means they accumulate almost no mercury over their brief lifespan. They are one of the cleanest animal proteins you can eat, but their real power is in their bone-building capacity. Sardines eaten with their soft, edible bones are one of the highest dietary sources of calcium available outside of dairy. And unlike dairy calcium, it comes packaged with vitamin D, which is required for that calcium to actually be absorbed by bone tissue. For adults dealing with decreasing bone density after 60, and this affects over 53 million Americans, sardines offer a nutrient combination that actually functions as skeletal support, not just a calcium number on a label. They're also extraordinary sources of vitamin B12, which becomes critical after 60 because the stomach lining produces less intrinsic factor, the compound required to absorb B12 from food. B12 deficiency in seniors is vastly underdiagnosed and is directly linked to peripheral neuropathy, fatigue, depression, and accelerated cognitive decline. One can of sardines delivers over 300% of the daily recommended B12 intake. Eaten regularly, they can meaningfully buffer against a deficiency that most people don't even know they're developing. Try them on whole grain crackers with a squeeze of lemon and a thin slice of avocado. The healthy fats in the avocado amplify absorption of fat-soluble nutrients. It's a genuinely effective combination, not just a palatable one. The third fish on the healing list is one that tends to fly under the radar in conversations about senior nutrition: Atlantic mackerel. Not king mackerel, which is high in mercury and belongs on the danger list, but Atlantic or Pacific chub mackerel, which is small, clean, and nutritionally extraordinary. Atlantic mackerel has omega-3 concentrations that rival salmon, making it one of the most powerful anti-inflammatory foods available. But it also carries something uniquely valuable for seniors struggling with muscle health: dense, bioavailable protein that the aging body can absorb with unusual efficiency. Sarcopenia, the age-related loss of muscle mass, accelerates significantly after 60 and is one of the primary drivers of frailty, fall risk, balance deterioration, and loss of independence. The research on dietary protein and sarcopenia is unambiguous. Adults over 60 need more protein per kilogram of body weight than younger adults, not less, because the muscle protein synthesis process becomes less efficient with age. A study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that older adults required 40% more dietary protein than younger adults to achieve equivalent rates of muscle maintenance. And mackerel, with its combination of complete protein and anti-inflammatory omega-3s, supports both the raw material for muscle building and the cellular environment that allows it to happen. Atlantic mackerel also contains CoQ10, coenzyme Q10, a compound your body produces naturally to fuel cellular energy production, but manufactures at declining rates after 50. Dietary CoQ10 from sources like mackerel can partially compensate for that decline, supporting heart muscle function, physical energy levels, and mitochondrial health. Grill it, bake it, or pan-sear it with herbs. It handles strong seasoning well: rosemary, garlic, lemon, which masks the more robust flavour some people find off-putting in stronger fish. The fourth healing fish rounds out this list perfectly, because it addresses one of the most underappreciated risks of aging: iodine deficiency and thyroid dysfunction. Cod. Pacific or Atlantic cod, Simple, mild, widely available, often overlooked because it doesn't carry the prestige of salmon or the drama of swordfish. But cod is one of the most quietly powerful fish you can eat after 60. Cod is exceptionally lean, which means it delivers protein without significant fat, making it ideal for seniors managing weight, cardiovascular risk, or cholesterol. It's a dense source of iodine, which is the primary nutrient required by the thyroid gland to produce the hormones that regulate metabolism, energy, body temperature, and weight distribution. After 60, particularly in women post-menopause, thyroid function declines steadily, and chronic low iodine intake accelerates that decline. The fatigue, weight gain, cold sensitivity, and cognitive fog that many seniors attribute to just getting older can be, in significant part, a nutrition essential for bone matrix formation, and substantial amounts of selenium, which protects the thyroid gland itself from oxidative damage. It cooks quickly, takes flavour beautifully, and is among the most versatile fish in the kitchen. A simple baked cod with olive oil, garlic and capers is one of the most nutrient-complete meals you can put on the table in under 20 minutes. Pair it with roasted vegetables for fibre that supports the gut microbiome the dangerous fish were quietly disrupting. Here's where we land. The difference between the fish on the danger list and the fish on the healing list is not a small thing. It's not a rounding error in your nutrition profile. It's the difference between a dietary pattern that accelerates the biological processes of aging, inflammation, cognitive decline, muscle loss, bone fragility, thyroid dysfunction, and one that actively slows them. The research is consistent, the mechanisms are understood, and the choices are entirely within your reach. Tilapia, swordfish, albacore, and contaminated farm shrimp are not evil foods. They are mismatched foods, mismatched to the specific biological realities of a body over 60. Wild salmon, sardines, Atlantic mackerel, and cod are not miracle foods. They are precisely matched ones. Delivering the nutrients that aging systems need most in forms the aging body can actually absorb and use. Your first step doesn't have to be dramatic. This week, replace one meal. 1 can of albacore becomes a can of light skipjack. 1 tilapia fillet becomes a piece of baked cod. That's all. 1 swap, 1 meal, 1 week. And then you build from there. This channel exists for one reason, to give you the information that gets filtered out in a 15-minute doctor's appointment, lost in the scroll of contradictory advice online, or buried under headlines that create fear without offering answers. You are an intelligent adult who deserves clear, evidence-based guidance, not a patient to be managed, but a person to be equipped. If this conversation changed the way you think about even one fish on this list, I want to know. Leave a comment. Tell me which fish surprised you most. Tell me what you're going to swap this week. And if you have a friend or a family member over 60 who still believes tilapia is a health food, share this with them, because that's exactly the kind of quiet, private warning that changes a person's health trajectory more than any prescription ever could. Your body is not done working for you. Give it what it needs, and it will prove that to you. Deficiency that fish like cod can help address. Cod also contains phosphorus.